Alex was sitting at his desk, staring at his computer screen, when a sudden ping broke the silence. It was an email from an unknown address. He hesitated for a moment before opening it. The message was short, but it was enough to make his heart race. It read, "Dear Alex, we need your help. A visitor from another world will be arriving shortly, and she requires a safe place to stay. Please prepare your home for her arrival. Thank you for your cooperation. Galactic Council *." At first, Alex thought it was some kind of prank, but after reading it a few more times, he realized it was serious. The message had a seal on it, something official. He was both excited and nervous. The thought of meeting someone from another planet was unimaginable, but here he was, chosen to host an alien. He spent the next few hours making sure his house was tidy. He didn't know what an alien would like or even how to prepare for such a visit, but he figured clean dishes and fresh sheets might help. When the doorbell finally rang, his heart raced with anticipation. Alex opened the door, and there she stood, Zora. She was beautiful, in a way that was difficult to describe. Her skin was a soft shade of pale blue, and her long silver hair cascaded down her back like a waterfall. Her eyes sparkled with an intensity that made her look like she was from a different world entirely. She was young, just a little older than Alex, and she looked nervous but curious. "Hello, Alex," she said softly, her voice smooth and melodic. "I'm Zora. I hope I haven't caused any trouble." Alex stood there for a moment, staring at her. He didn't know what to say. The woman in front of him was not just a stranger. She was something completely beyond his understanding. No trouble at all," Alex finally managed to say, stepping aside to let her in. "Welcome to Earth, I guess." He smiled awkwardly. Zara stepped into the house, her gaze scanning everything with fascination. She seemed both amazed and slightly out of place, as if she had never seen such simple things before, like the soft fabric of the couch or the shiny metal of the fridge. She walked carefully, as though unsure of what to touch or where to step. It was clear she wasn't used to Earth's way of life, and Alex could tell she felt out of her comfort zone. "I've never seen such colors," Zara said, her voice filled with wonder. "The walls, they are not like anything back home." Alex chuckled nervously, trying to think of something to say. "Well, yeah, we do love colors here. Earth's got all kinds of them. You'll get used to it." Zara nodded slowly, her eyes wide. She was clearly trying to understand her new surroundings, but it was obvious that everything was strange and foreign to her. Alex could sense the discomfort in her posture, the way she hesitated before touching anything. "Would you like something to drink?" Alex asked, trying to make her feel more at ease. Yes, please," Zora replied, looking at him with gratitude. "Water, if that's okay." Alex went to the kitchen, his mind racing. This wasn't just any house guest. It was an alien from another planet. He couldn't help but think about what her life had been like before coming here. What kind of food did she eat? What was her world like? But he pushed those thoughts aside for now. He couldn't let his nervousness show. He handed Zora a glass of water and sat across from her. There was a long silence between them, the kind that makes people feel uncomfortable. But it wasn't just the usual awkwardness. It was the weight of something much bigger. Both of them were worlds apart in ways Alex couldn't even begin to understand. "I'm sorry," Zora said suddenly, breaking the silence. "I know this must be strange for you. It's strange for me too." Alex smiled, relieved that she had broken the tension. "Don't worry about it. I'm sure this is strange for both of us, but I'm happy to help however I can." Zara smiled back, but it was a soft, uncertain smile. She was trying to adjust, just like Alex was. The truth was, neither of them knew what to expect from this unusual living arrangement. As the night wore on, Alex realized that this was just the beginning. Living together, sharing a home. What would it be like? How would they manage the differences in their cultures, their ways of life? There were so many questions, but for now, all they could do was take things one step at a time. The first night of Zora's stay had just begun, and Alex had no idea how much it would change his life forever. This part sets up the story, introducing both characters and the unique situation, while keeping it engaging and easy to follow. The focus is on the initial awkwardness and curiosity, setting the stage for the rest of the story. The next morning, Alex woke up to the sound of soft footsteps echoing from the hallway. He groggily opened his eyes, rubbing the sleep from them. Zora was already awake. He could hear her moving around, though he wasn't sure exactly what she was doing. She had mentioned that she didn't sleep much, and Alex had guessed it was probably because of the time difference between Earth and her home planet. He groaned and slowly got out of bed, stretching. When he walked into the living room, he was greeted by the sight of Zora sitting on the couch, her long silver hair spread out around her like a glowing river. Her eyes were fixed on the TV screen, and she seemed utterly focused on whatever was playing. The thing was, the TV wasn't showing anything she would recognize. "Good morning," Alex said, yawning and scratching the back of his head. Zora jumped, clearly startled by his voice. "Oh, good morning, Alex," she replied, her voice still soft, but now tinged with a bit of surprise. "I was trying to understand your television." Alex chuckled. "It's just TV, nothing special. What's on?" Zora glanced at him, her face thoughtful. "I don't know. I've been trying to follow the images, but they don't make sense." Alex walked over and sat next to her, trying to make the situation a little more comfortable. "Yeah, TV can be confusing, especially if you're not used to it. It's mostly for entertainment, not really for learning anything important." Zora's eyes widened, and she turned to face him. "So, it's not real?" "Not exactly. It's just shows, movies, stories," Alex explained. "It's not real, but it's fun." Zora nodded slowly. "I see. There is nothing like this back home. We only have, I don't know how to explain it, knowledge-gathering devices." She gestured vaguely with her hands, as if searching for the right words. "You watch these things to learn, to understand more. It's very serious." Alex could see how different their worlds were. While he had grown up with entertainment and distraction, Zora's people seemed to be focused entirely on knowledge and progress. Well, Earth has a lot of things that are just for fun. TV is one of them. They both sat there for a moment, the silence hanging between them. Alex wondered how much Zora missed her home. How could she not feel lost in a strange world so different from everything she had ever known? But he didn't want to ask her about it just yet. He was still figuring out how to make her feel comfortable, and he didn't want to make her feel worse. "You hungry?" Alex finally asked, breaking the silence. "I can make breakfast." Zora blinked at him in surprise. "Food?" she asked. I don't know what to eat here." Alex laughed. "No worries. I'll make something simple. Just follow my lead." As Alex made breakfast, Zora watched him closely, taking in every move. It was clear she had never cooked in a kitchen like this before. The appliances were strange to her, and she kept staring at the toaster with wide eyes, as if it might suddenly turn into something else. "How do I use this?" Zora asked, pointing at the coffee maker. Alex smiled and walked over to show her. "You press this button, and it makes coffee. It's pretty simple." Zora's eyes grew even wider. "Coffee? What is this coffee? We don't have it back home." Alex paused, realizing how much he took for granted. "It's just a drink. People drink it to wake up, to get energy." Zora seemed fascinated. She watched him closely, and for the first time, her nervousness seemed to lessen a little. "I would like to try it. If it helps you stay awake, it must be useful." Alex made 2 cups of coffee, one for himself and one for Zora. When he handed it to her, she took a cautious sip. Her eyes widened in surprise. "It's bitter," she said, trying to hide her reaction. "Yeah, it's not for everyone," Alex replied, laughing. Zara smiled a little, clearly trying to adjust to Earth's many oddities. "It's different, but I think I can get used to it." As they sat down to eat breakfast together, Zora asked more questions. She was curious about everything: human culture, food, and the way things worked on Earth. Alex found himself answering with enthusiasm, happy to share what he knew. Despite all the differences between them, they were beginning to understand each other a little better. By the end of breakfast, Zara seemed more at ease. She wasn't perfect at navigating human life yet, but she was trying. And that was more than Alex had expected. They still had a long way to go, but today felt like the start of something new. Slowly, they were bridging the gap between two worlds, one question at a time. This part delves deeper into the dynamics of their relationship, showing how Zara begins to adjust to Earth life, while Alex continues to help her feel more comfortable. The focus is on the cultural differences, which provide opportunities for humor and connection. The next few days felt like a whirlwind for both Alex and Zara. As Zara tried to get used to Earth's strange ways, Alex found himself constantly explaining things he had never thought to explain before. He was surprised at how different everything seemed to her. Things he took for granted were completely foreign to her. One morning, Alex was sitting in the kitchen, reading the news on his tablet when Zara walked in, looking slightly confused. She was holding a small piece of paper in her hand. "Alex, I think I've done something wrong," Zara said, her voice unsure. Alex looked up, setting the tablet aside. "What happened?" Zara handed him the paper. I tried to write a note like you do, but I'm not sure if I did it right." Alex took the paper and read the note aloud. It said, "Dear Alex, please ensure the outside container is aligned with the inner box before the covering is applied. Thank you." Alex blinked, puzzled. Zara, what's this about?" Zara looked embarrassed. "I saw you leave the house earlier, and you put a box in your car. I thought I should write a note for you, in case you needed it. Is it wrong?" Alex smiled, trying to hold back a laugh. No, it's not wrong. But I think you might have overthought it a little. It's just a package. I just put it in the car and forget about it." Zora frowned, clearly not understanding. "But you said it was important. Why would you forget about it if it's important?" Alex chuckled, realizing that this was a major misunderstanding. "It's just a delivery. No need for a note." Zora looked down, feeling a little embarrassed. "I just wanted to help. Back home, we always make sure things are properly prepared, with no mistakes." "I get it," Alex said gently. "But sometimes, here, it's okay to be less formal. We don't have to be so precise with everything." Zara nodded slowly, still unsure but trying her best to adjust. "I will try to learn. I don't want to make things harder for you." Later that day, Alex asked Zara if she wanted to join him for a walk outside. She agreed, eager to explore the world beyond the house. They walked through the neighborhood, and Zara seemed fascinated by everything. The trees, the houses, the strange sounds of birds chirping. It was all so different from her home planet. As they reached the corner of the block, Alex noticed a dog running toward them. It was a golden retriever, wagging its tail excitedly. The dog stopped in front of Zara, sniffing her curiously. "Don't worry, it's friendly," Alex said with a laugh. But Zara looked uncertain. She stepped back, her eyes wide. "This creature, it's not like anything I've seen before." Alex smiled and crouched down to pet the dog. "It's just a dog. They're pretty harmless." Zora slowly reached out her hand, but the dog barked excitedly and jumped up to greet her, licking her hand. Zora jumped back in surprise, almost tripping over her own feet. "What is it doing? Is it trying to attack me?" "No." Alex laughed, helping her steady herself. "It's just being friendly. It wants to play." Zora looked at the dog, her face a mix of confusion and curiosity. "On my planet, We don't have creatures like this. Everything is very organized. There are no surprises. Alex smiled, trying to hide his amusement. Well, on Earth, we like surprises sometimes. They're fun. Zara seemed to relax a little as the dog calmed down. She reached out again, this time allowing the dog to nuzzle her hand. "It's soft," she said softly, amazed. "I never thought creatures could be so soft." As they continued their walk, Zora asked more questions about Earth's animals, its plants, and the people. She was trying her best to understand everything, but it was clear that her old life was so different from what she was experiencing now. Later that evening, Alex and Zara sat down for dinner. Zara was still trying to get used to human food. Tonight, they were having pasta, something Alex thought would be simple enough. "How do you eat this?" Zara asked, looking at her plate of pasta, slightly confused. "Is there a special method?" Alex laughed, taking a bite of his food. "You just use a fork, like this. See, you twirl it around." Zara tried to mimic him, but ended up with spaghetti all over her shirt. She looked down at the mess, and then back up at Alex, clearly embarrassed. Alex couldn't help but laugh. "It's okay. It's just food. No big deal." Zora sighed, looking down at her plate. "I'm sorry. I'm trying so hard, but everything is difficult." Alex placed a hand on her shoulder, trying to reassure her. "Don't worry about it. You're doing great. We're both figuring this out together." Zara smiled weakly, thankful for his kindness. Despite the mistakes and misunderstandings, she was beginning to feel like maybe she wasn't as out of place as she thought. She still had a lot to learn, but for the first time since arriving, she felt like she might be okay. Over the next few days, life slowly began to settle into a routine for both Alex and Zara. Each day was filled with small lessons and moments of discovery, as Zara tried to adjust to her new life on Earth. She was still unsure of many things, but Alex had learned to be patient with her. It wasn't easy, but they were learning together. One morning, Alex woke up to find Zara already up and sitting at the kitchen table, studying a strange book. The book was about Earth's history, something she had found on one of the shelves the night before. It seemed to fascinate her, and Alex couldn't help but be impressed by how eager she was to learn. "Good morning," Alex said, walking into the kitchen and pouring himself a cup of coffee. "Good morning," Zora replied, her eyes still focused on the book. "I've been reading about your history. It's very different from ours." Alex smiled, sitting down next to her. "Yeah, Earth's history is full of surprises, some good, some bad." Zara turned the page, her eyes scanning the text with intense curiosity. "I didn't know your species had so many challenges. On my planet, we focus on solving problems, but we don't face conflict like this. I don't understand why your people didn't just avoid it." Alex paused, thinking about her question. It was a question he had asked himself many times. "I think sometimes people make mistakes. They don't always have the answers, and sometimes they just don't know how to solve things without fighting. But over time, we learn and grow." Zara nodded thoughtfully. "We believe that understanding and unity are the key to progress. But I see now that your people are very resilient. You've faced many challenges, and yet you continue to survive." Alex felt a sense of pride at her words, though he wasn't sure if humanity was as strong as she made it sound. "We do try, but sometimes it's hard to keep going when things get tough." Zora closed the book and looked at him. "I think I understand. Your species has an incredible strength. I admire it." The compliment caught Alex off guard. He hadn't thought of humans as particularly strong, at least not in the way Zora seemed to view them. He smiled, grateful for her words. "Thanks, Zora. I think you're pretty strong too. You're adapting to all of this so well, even though it's so different from what you're used to." Zara smiled back, a soft expression that made her seem more human than alien. "I'm trying, but I still don't understand your food. It's strange to me yet. I keep wanting to try new things. Alex laughed. I'll take that as a compliment. You're doing better than I expected, to be honest. I figured by now you'd be sick of Earth food. Zara shrugged. It's just different. I've never tasted anything like it before, but I will learn. That afternoon, Alex suggested they go outside for a walk. We could use some fresh air. You've been reading a lot, and I think a break would do us both good. Zara agreed, and they stepped outside into the bright sunlight. Zara seemed fascinated by everything. Every leaf on the tree, every flower, and even the sounds of the birds. It was as if she had never truly seen nature before. Alex had always thought nature was beautiful, but seeing Zara's wonder reminded him of how extraordinary the world around them could be. As they walked through the neighborhood, Zara pointed out different things, asking questions. "What are these colorful things on the ground?" she asked, kneeling to touch a bed of flowers. "Those are called flowers," Alex said, smiling. "They come in all different colors and shapes. People like them because they're pretty, and they smell nice." Zara gently touched one of the petals, her fingers brushing over it with reverence. "On my planet, we have plants, but they are very different. They don't have these colors." "I'm sure you have your own kind of beauty there," Alex said. "Every place is different, and that's what makes them interesting." Zara stood up and looked at him. "Yes, I suppose so. But Earth's beauty is special. I didn't expect it to be like this." As the days passed, Zara began to adjust more to life in Alex's house. They started to develop a routine, with Zara waking up early to read and Alex working from home. In the evenings, they would spend time together, talking about Earth's history, Zora's world, or just sharing thoughts about their day. Though Zara still had moments of confusion, especially when it came to human customs and food, Alex found himself growing fond of her. She was smart, curious, and always eager to learn. In many ways, their differences brought them closer together, as they both tried to understand each other's worlds. One evening, as they sat in the living room, Alex noticed that Zara seemed lost in thought. "What's on your mind?" he asked, looking at her. Zara looked up from the window, her eyes filled with a mixture of wonder and uncertainty. "I'm starting to feel at home here. It's strange, but I feel like I'm beginning to understand your world." Alex smiled, feeling a sense of warmth. "I think you're doing great. It's not easy, but you're making it work." Zara nodded, her eyes softening. Maybe it's not so bad to be different after all." Alex realized that maybe, just maybe, Zara was starting to see that their differences weren't obstacles. They were what made them stronger. And together, they could face whatever came next. This part focuses on Zora's growing comfort with Earth's ways and Alex's increasing understanding of her. The relationship between the two deepens as they begin to learn more about each other, strengthening their bond through shared moments and conversations. As the days went on, the connection between Zara and Alex grew stronger. What had started as a strange and awkward situation was slowly becoming something more familiar, more comfortable. They were no longer just two people from different worlds trying to make it work. They were becoming friends, learning from each other, and sharing moments that felt less like misunderstandings and more like true connections. One morning, Zara came to Alex with a worried look on her face. She was holding a small device in her hands, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Alex," she began, "there's something wrong with my communicator. I can't reach anyone back home. I've tried everything, but nothing seems to work." Alex frowned, standing up from the kitchen table where he had been reading. "What do you mean? Can I help?" Zara handed him the small device, which looked like a sleek, metallic piece of technology. "I've been trying to contact the Galactic Council to update them on my progress here, but this isn't working. I don't know what's wrong." Alex looked at the communicator, turning it over in his hands. It was nothing like the technology he was used to, but the problem seemed simple enough. "Let me take a look," he said, sitting down at the table with it. I'm not exactly a tech expert, but I can try to figure it out. Zara watched him closely, a hint of worry in her eyes. I don't want to cause you trouble, but I must reach them. I have to report on my stay here. Alex smiled reassuringly. No trouble at all. I'll try my best. He spent the next few hours examining the device, twisting wires, pressing buttons, and trying different combinations. Zara sat quietly beside him, occasionally offering advice from her home world, but it became clear that the technology was too advanced for him to easily fix. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Alex sat back, exhausted. I'm sorry, Zara. I can't figure it out. But I think I have an idea. I've seen some of this technology before at work. Maybe I can call someone to help. Zara's face lit up with hope. You think so? You think someone here can help? Alex nodded, pulling out his phone. I'm going to call a friend who works with tech stuff. They might be able to help us. It wasn't long before Alex's friend, Sam, arrived. Sam was a tech genius, always tinkering with gadgets and machines. He was curious about Zara's communicator, and as soon as he saw it, he was fascinated. This is incredible, Sam said, inspecting the device with wide eyes. It's like nothing I've ever seen. But I think I can help. Zara watched in awe as Sam worked. She could see the different tools and gadgets he used, none of which she had ever seen before. For a moment, she felt a pang of frustration. Her world had technology that was far more advanced, yet here she was, relying on a human to fix her equipment. But then she looked at Alex, who was sitting beside her, smiling with encouragement. It reminded her of something she had learned since arriving on Earth. Sometimes it was okay to not have all the answers. And humans, even with their less advanced technology, had an incredible way of figuring things out. After a few hours, Sam managed to get the communicator working again. Zara's eyes widened in disbelief as she saw the device light up and begin receiving signals. You did it, Zara exclaimed, looking at Alex with gratitude. Thank you. Alex smiled, feeling proud of the accomplishment. No problem. I'm glad it worked. Zara turned to Sam, her face full of admiration. Your world. You are so resourceful. You have a way of making things work, even when the odds are against you. Sam shrugged, grinning. I just like to figure things out. As Zara contacted the Galactic Council and reported on her progress, Alex and Sam exchanged a look. It was clear that Zara was beginning to see humanity in a different light. While her world had all the advanced technology, Earth had something else: resourcefulness, creativity, and a drive to make things work, no matter what. Later that evening, Zara and Alex sat together, talking about their respective worlds. Zara shared more about the struggles her people faced, how they had reached the limits of their own technology, and were looking to Earth for solutions. It was something Alex hadn't fully understood before, but as Zara spoke, he began to realize just how much his world had to offer. You know, Alex said thoughtfully, you're not the only one learning here. I'm learning too. You've shown me how important it is to keep trying, even when things seem impossible. Zara smiled, her eyes softening. I'm glad. I think we're both teaching each other. As the days went by, Alex and Zara began to realize that their time together was more than just a cultural exchange. It was an opportunity to grow, to understand the strengths of each other's worlds, and to discover what made humanity unique in a universe. The days were moving quickly, and Alex was starting to feel more at ease with Zara living in his house. They had become a team, tackling everyday challenges together. Zara had learned so much about Earth and its strange ways, and Alex was learning about Zara's home planet and its highly advanced technology. But there was still so much more to discover, and the bond between them was growing stronger with each passing day. One afternoon, Alex came home from running errands to find Zara pacing nervously in the living room. Her eyes were wide with worry, and she was holding the communicator in her hands again, just like the first time. Zara? Alex asked, concerned. What's wrong? Zara looked up at him, clearly anxious. "I received a message from my people. It's urgent." Alex walked over and sat beside her. "What is it? Can I help?" Zara handed him the communicator, her voice shaky. "They need me to fix something important, but I don't know how. They say I have to repair a device that's broken, but it's far beyond anything I've ever worked on before." Alex took the device from her, studying it for a moment. It was complex, far more intricate than the communicator, with strange symbols and advanced designs that he couldn't even begin to understand. But something about it caught his eye. A part of it seemed to be malfunctioning, like it had short-circuited. "You know, I may not be an expert in alien tech," Alex said, trying to sound confident, "but I fixed a lot of things around here. Maybe we can figure this out together." Zara looked at him, doubt in her eyes. "You think so?" Alex nodded, determined. "I know so. Let's give it a try." They spent hours working on the device, Alex trying to follow Zara's instructions, while Zara explained what she knew. Despite the complexity of the technology, they found common ground. Zara was amazed by how resourceful Alex was, even with his limited knowledge of advanced technology. She had assumed humans wouldn't be able to help with such a task, but Alex's creativity and problem-solving skills made all the difference. At one point, Zara paused, looking at him in surprise. "You're incredible. I didn't think it was possible for someone from your world to understand something like this." Alex smiled. "I guess humans have a way of figuring things out when we need to." Zara nodded thoughtfully. "You really do. My people never realized that a species like yours could have such potential." Alex's chest swelled with pride, though he kept his response humble. "Well, I'm not sure about all humans, but I do know we've got some pretty clever ones." After hours of work, they finally managed to fix the device. Zara activated it, and to both of their relief, the device hummed to life, working perfectly once again. Zara's face lit up with joy, and she hugged Alex tightly. "You did it," she exclaimed. "You helped me. I couldn't have done this without you." Alex laughed, a bit surprised by her reaction. "We did it together, Zara. I couldn't have figured it out without your help, either." Zara stepped back, looking at him with admiration. "I never imagined that something like this could happen. I thought my people were the only ones with the technology to fix things like this." Alex shrugged. "I guess we're not so different after all. You've got your advanced tech, and I've got my hands-on skills. We both bring something to the table." Zara smiled, clearly proud of what they had accomplished together. "You're right. I'm starting to see how much humanity has to offer." Later that evening, as they sat down for dinner, the conversation turned to the future. Zara was still unsure of what would happen once her mission was complete. She had learned so much on Earth, and Alex had become a friend she never expected to find. But her mission was far from over, and soon she would have to return to her own world. "I don't know what's going to happen next," Zara said softly, looking down at her plate. "My people need me. But I don't want to leave. Not now. Not after everything we've shared." Alex looked at her, his heart heavy with the thought of her leaving. He had grown attached to her, and the idea of her leaving felt almost impossible. But he understood that she had a duty to fulfill, one that was bigger than both of them. "I don't want you to leave either," Alex admitted. "But I understand. Whatever happens, I know you've made a real impact on me. And I think you've made an impact on Earth, too." Zara's eyes softened, and she smiled gently. "Thank you, Alex. I never thought I would find a friend here. But I have. And for that, I am truly grateful." The two of them sat in silence for a moment, reflecting on everything they had learned from each other. Their time together had been unexpected, filled with both challenges and triumphs. But what they had discovered was something far more important: how much they could accomplish when. As the days passed, Zara and Alex became more comfortable with each other. What had started as a strange arrangement, an alien from another world living in Alex's house, had turned into something far more meaningful. They had both grown in ways they didn't expect, learning about each other's worlds and building a friendship that neither had imagined. But despite all the progress, there was an underlying sense of uncertainty that neither of them could ignore. One evening after dinner, Alex sat on the couch, scrolling through his phone while Zara was beside him, looking out the window. The quiet was comfortable, but there was something in the air, something unspoken, that made Alex uneasy. He knew that Zara had been growing distant lately, and he couldn't quite figure out why. "Zara?" Alex finally asked, his voice breaking the silence. She turned to look at him, her expression a mix of concern and thoughtfulness. "Yes, Alex. You've been quiet lately. Is everything okay?" Alex asked gently. Zara hesitated before answering. "I'm fine. It's just, I've been thinking about everything." Alex put his phone down, sensing that this conversation was important. "What about everything?" Zara sighed, turning away from the window. "I've been here for weeks now, and I've learned so much. I never imagined that I would be able to understand your world so well, but I'm still not sure if I belong here. My mission is far from over, and I know I'm supposed to return to my planet soon." Alex felt a pang of sadness at her words. He had known, deep down, that this day would come. He'd grown so used to having her around, and the idea of her leaving made him feel like something was being pulled from him. But he didn't want to let on how much it hurt. "I get it," Alex said softly. "You have responsibilities, and you need to go back. But I guess I just didn't expect things to feel this real. I didn't expect to feel this way about you." Zara looked at him, her eyes wide with surprise. "You mean you don't want me to leave?" Alex met her gaze, his heart racing. "I don't. But I understand that you have to. You have your mission, and I'm not going to stand in the way of that." Zara looked down, her expression troubled. "I don't know what's worse, the thought of leaving, or the thought of staying and knowing I'm not supposed to. I'm torn between my duty and everything I've come to care about here." Alex could hear the weight of her words, the conflict that she was struggling with. He understood it more than she might realize. The human side of him didn't want to lose her, but the other side of him, the part that understood responsibility and duty, knew that her mission was something bigger than both of them. "I don't know what it's like for you," Alex said quietly, "but I think I understand what it means to feel like you have to choose between two things you care about. It's hard." Zara nodded, a slow tear slipping down her cheek. "I never thought I'd feel like this. I thought I would be fine, just do my job, and then go home. But you've changed that for me. I didn't expect to care so much about someone from another world." Alex reached out, wiping away the tear from her cheek gently. "I never expected any of this, either, but I'm glad it's happened. I've learned more than I could have imagined, just from being with you. It's not easy, and it never will be, but I'm glad we met." Zara smiled faintly, her heart full. "You're right. It won't be easy, but maybe that's what makes it all worth it. The fact that we've shared something that's bigger than our differences. Maybe that's what really matters." The two of them sat together in silence for a moment, each lost in their thoughts. The uncertainty of what would happen next hung in the air, but in that moment, they both understood that whatever came next, they had learned something important. They had learned how to live together despite their differences, how to share moments that felt meaningful, even though they came from two completely different worlds. "Whatever happens next," Alex said softly, breaking the silence, "I just want you to know that you've made a real impact on me. I won't forget this." Zora looked at him, a warm smile spreading across her face. "And I won't forget you, Alex. I've learned more from you than I could ever learn from anyone else." They sat together, both uncertain of the future but certain of the bond they had built. Their time together had changed them both, and no matter what happened next, they knew they would carry this experience with them forever. The days felt heavy for both Alex and Zara as the reality of their situation began to settle in. Zara had been trying to avoid thinking about the end of her mission, but it was becoming impossible to ignore. Every conversation they shared, every quiet moment together, reminded her that soon she would have to leave. The uncertainty of it all made her restless. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a soft golden light across the room, Zara found herself standing by the window again, looking out into the distance. Alex was in the kitchen, making dinner as usual, but Zara's mind was far from the present moment. It was lost in thoughts of home, duty, and the life she would return to. "Zara," Alex called from the kitchen, "dinner's almost ready." Zara turned to him, offering a faint smile. "I'll be right there." She walked over to the table and sat down, her thoughts still racing. Alex could tell that something was weighing on her. He set the plates down in front of them and sat across from her, his eyes studying her with concern. "Zara, I can tell something's on your mind," Alex said gently. "You've been quiet again. Is everything all right?" Zara took a deep breath, her hands nervously twisting in her lap. She had been avoiding this conversation, but it seemed there was no way around it now. "Alex," she began softly, her voice barely above a whisper, "I've been thinking a lot lately. About my mission and about everything we shared. I didn't expect this to be so hard." Alex nodded, his heart aching for her. "I know what you mean. I didn't think this would be as difficult as it is either." Zara looked up at him, her eyes filled with emotion. "I've learned so much from you, Alex. More than I ever thought I would. And I've realized something important." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "I've always been taught that duty comes first, that our mission is what defines us. But you've shown me something else, something I never considered before." Alex listened carefully, his gaze never leaving her face. "What do you mean?" Zara stood up and walked over to the window, her hands resting lightly on the sill. "Back home, we're always focused on the future, on progress, on what's next. But here, with you, I've learned that sometimes it's not about what's coming. It's about what's happening now. The moments we share, the things we learn from each other, they matter more than I realized." Alex's heart swelled with understanding. "Zara, I know it's hard, but you've made a huge impact here. On me, on Earth, even. It's not just about your mission anymore, is it?" Zara turned to face him, her expression soft and thoughtful. "No, it's not just about my mission. It's about the connections we make, the people we meet, and I've realized that I've made a connection with you, something that I never expected." Alex stood up and walked over to her, the air between them charged with emotion. "I don't want you to go, Zara, but I also understand that you have a responsibility. You have a purpose, and I respect that. But I think you've made a difference here. You've made me see things in a new way." Zara smiled, her eyes shining with a mixture of sadness and gratitude. "I've learned so much from you, Alex. I've learned that sometimes the best way to move forward is to look back, to appreciate what we have in the present moment." The two of them stood there in silence for a moment, each lost in their thoughts. Zara had never expected to form such a deep bond with someone from Earth. Her mission had started as just another job, another task in her long list of responsibilities. But now it had become something much more personal. "I don't know what's going to happen next," Zara said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "But I do know that no matter where I go, I'll always carry these moments with me. You've changed me, Alex. I'll never forget that." Alex reached out and took her hand, squeezing it gently. "And I'll never forget you, Zara. No matter where you go, you'll always have a place here, with me." Zara looked at him, her heart full. "Thank you. I didn't think I'd ever find a friend like you on Earth. But I did, and that means everything to me." As they sat down to dinner, the weight of their conversation hung in the air, but it wasn't a burden anymore. It was a reminder that no matter what the future held, they had shared something truly special. They had learned from each other, grown together, and created a bond that would last far beyond the walls of Alex's house. And even though Zara's mission was far from over, she knew that no matter where she went, she would always carry the lessons she had learned from Earth and from Alex with he. The following morning, the atmosphere in the house felt different. There was an undeniable sense of change in the air, and Zara could feel it deep within her. It had been weeks since she arrived on Earth, and though the days had been filled with new experiences, learning, and friendship, she knew it was time for her to leave. The mission was never meant to last forever, and she had fulfilled her duties. But leaving wasn't as simple as packing up her things and returning to her world. The connection she had formed with Alex, with Earth, was far more complicated than she could have ever imagined. As she sat by the window once again, gazing out at the morning sun, her thoughts were clouded with uncertainty. She had never felt this torn before. On one hand, she knew her return was necessary for her people, but on the other, she couldn't ignore the strong bond that had developed between her and Alex. She had learned so much, not just about Earth, but about herself. Alex walked into the room, his usual warm smile on his face, but today there was something different in his eyes, an understanding that neither of them had spoken about yet. The weight of her decision hung in the air, unspoken, but felt deeply between them. "Good morning," Alex said, walking over to Zara. "I've been thinking about what we talked about last night." Zara turned to face him, her heart heavy. "I've been thinking about it too. I don't know what to do. Alex, I feel like I'm leaving a part of myself behind." Alex sat down beside her, looking out the window at the quiet neighborhood. "I know. It's not easy. But maybe it's not about leaving. Maybe it's about knowing that what we've shared, what we've learned from each other, won't just disappear." Zora looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You're right. I never expected to feel so connected to this world. To you. But I can't stay. My people need me." Alex nodded, his voice soft but steady. "I get it. I do. You have your mission, and that's important. But no matter what happens, this time we shared, these lessons, we both take them with us. You're not really leaving, Zara. Not in a way that matters." Zara smiled faintly, a tear slipping down her cheek. "You've made me see the world in a new way, Alex. Before, I was just focused on the future, on what comes next. But now, I've learned to appreciate the present, the moments we have, the people we meet." Alex reached out and gently wiped the tear from her cheek. "I'm glad I could help with that. You've taught me a lot too, about resilience, about looking beyond what we know." The room was quiet for a moment as they both reflected on the past few weeks. There had been challenges, misunderstandings, and moments of doubt. But there had also been something much stronger, a growing friendship that had defied the boundaries of two worlds. Zara took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "I'm not sure when I'll leave, but I know it has to happen soon. I'll have to report back to my people. But even then, I'll never forget what we shared." Alex gave her a reassuring smile. "I won't forget either. And no matter what happens, I know we've both grown from this. You've changed the way I see the world, Zara, and I think I've done the same for you." They both stood up, and for a moment, neither of them said anything. The words didn't need to be spoken. They both knew what was coming. They knew that their time together was ending, but the connection they had built would last forever. Zara walked over to the window one last time, looking out at the world she had come to love. She had learned so much, but the time had come to move forward. Earth had shown her things she had never imagined, and Alex had become a true friend, someone she would always remember. She turned to Alex and smiled softly. "Thank you for everything. You've made me see that no matter where we come from, we all have something to offer." Alex walked over to her, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "And thank you, Zora. You've shown me that we're capable of so much more than we think. We just have to keep learning, keep growing." As Zara turned to face him, their eyes met one final time. There were no more words needed. They had said everything that mattered. The door to the next chapter of their lives was opening, and though the future was uncertain, they both knew that their time together would stay with them forever. Zara took a deep breath and smiled. "Goodbye, Alex, but this isn't the end. It's just the beginning of something new." With one last, lingering look, Zara stepped outside. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over everything. As she walked away, she knew that no matter where her journey took her, she would always carry the lessons, the friendship, and the memories with her. And Alex watched her go, knowing that the bond they had created would never truly fade. It was a new beginning for both of them.